Hi everyone, my name is Kirstin Krauss. I'm a research advisor for the WIS Academy and facilitator of the research capacity building workshops. Welcome to the WIS Academy YouTube channel where we empower researchers with skills to excel in their work. In today's video, we will look at how to read and use theory. This will be especially useful if you're busy with a PhD and you are using theory. So stay tuned. If you are busy with a doctoral study and you are really grappling with questions such as how do I choose a theory, how can I know that a theory is relevant for my study or my phenomena of interest, how can I get to know the theory, and how should I read about the theory, I really believe that this workshop is for you. There's a couple of definitions that we can draw on to define theory. The first is by Samuel Bacharach, and he said that it's no more than a linguistic device used to organize a complex empirical world. Stinchcombe said that great researchers like us invent explanations when they are confronted with phenomena and data that they cannot explain. So theory is really a linguistic device that we as researchers can use to interrogate phenomena out there, research phenomena. And interrogating this research phenomena, we can add to the theory, we can strengthen the theory, or we can particularize the theory. Theory consists of two main constituents. The first is concepts, the most simplest form of ideas, and these ideas receive names. But then secondly, propositions. Propositions basically define the relationships between concepts. For example, one can, take this proposition that the more encouragement a person gets, the more a person's reference group uses the technology and the more support is provided, the higher that person's computer self-efficacy. Now, in that statement, in that proposition, there's a couple of concepts, like, for example, encouragement, support, self-efficacy, but then there's also words that describe the relationship, like, for example, the more encouragement, the more the reference group uses the technology. So in that statement, which is a proposition, it actually brings together the two main constituents of theory, which is concepts and propositions. However, in our study, we might have to deal with a particular phenomenon of interest. We might have to deal with a very unique context or a very unique problem. And then the question becomes how can I get to know the theory? I just want to highlight a couple of points that I found to be very useful in getting to know the theory. The first is that one needs to start by establishing a vocabulary or a language for this theory. And so what I mean by language is that everyone in the field of interest, everyone writing about this theory, using the theory, start to as a group, as a community, use a particular language to use, apply, define, the different concepts and propositions. So in essence, you need to master that. And the language will basically involve, when you define your vocabulary, it will basically involve explaining the concepts, explaining the relationships, and if there's any groupings of those concepts, you need to define that. But then the vocabulary can actually come from 4 different sources. Okay, and now this touches on the whole idea of making data theory links or theorizing. But the 4 possible sources can be the literature or literature about the theory. Second one is how the theory was used and particularized specifically for a phenomena similar to yours, or a context similar to yours, or a type of study similar to yours. Then also from the observer or the researcher, in other words, you as a person, as a researcher, as a scientist, interrogating a phenomenon of interest, trying to see how this theory manifests in it. And then fourthly, something that is often neglected is it can come from participants. You can sit in an interview situation or a participant can tell you something that really helps you to identify a unique concept that might, add to the theory, or that might redefine some of the aspects of the theory. So that's how one would get to know the theory. But then how to read the theory, this would be my advice. Firstly, you need to read the original sources and theorists. In other words, go back to the original theorists. Get to know their thinking. Read the original books. Read where this theory starts. Secondly, it helps to read people writing about this theorist. Okay, people, for example, discussing a particular topic and a particular theorist. Often in those papers and those books, you find interesting critique of the original theories, and it always helps to know what a theory cannot do. Thirdly, read about how this theory was particularized. In other words, if you use a particular theory in your study, let's say Bordeaux's theory of practice, then you need, and you study ICT for development like I did, then you go and study how Bordeaux's theory of practice was used in similar studies to yours, like in ICT for development studies. Very important then, number 5, is that you need to read about the weaknesses and assessment guidance. That will really help you to understand what a theory cannot do. Because if a theory is a lens or a conceptual or a linguistic device, there are certain things that it cannot do, things that fall through the net or through the cracks, concepts, and it's fine. It's just you need to know what are the boundary conditions. Then also, do not only rely on second-hand knowledge of the theory. It's like, diluting the ideas if you only read what others say about the original theorist. Do not do that. It's like you deal with second-hand knowledge and you get then dilution of the ideas. And then finally, as you read the theory, try and understand and mimic the epistemology. The reality is that all theories develop through some sort of methodology or some sort of way of constructing knowledge, or what we call epistemology. And if your study, what you intend to do, is more or less similar, your knowledge construction principles are more or less similar to what the original theorists put forward, then it's probable that that is a good choice of theory. So I'm just going to give 2 examples from my own thesis how, some of these principles have been implemented in the text. In this example, what I did is I looked at 3 possible critical streams, because I'm a critical theorist and I was interested in using a particular critical theory for my study. But at that point, I really grappled with, which theory should I use and how should I get to know this theory? So in this example, I found a paper by Myers and Klein in one of the top journals who said that there are 3 critical streams most visible in information systems literature, which is the discipline where I come from. And in that paper, which is highly recognized in the field, the authors identified three theorists. What I did is I studied all 3 of them, Habermas, Foucault, and then Bordeaux. And so you can see in this example how I studied all 3 of them. And then finally, in the last one, Bordeaux, I decided that, looking at my phenomena of interest, that Bordeaux's critical lineage appealed most to my approach and study. And I also said that Bordeaux spoke to me. And I believe that his theory would align best with my phenomena of interest and what I need. Basically, it meant for me that Bordeaux was an ethnographer, I was an ethnographer, so the knowledge construction approaches aligned quite well with each other. So therefore, the theory fit well. In this example, I'm just showing how I got to know the theory. And so firstly, I read the original theorist, specifically looking at his most important books, okay, and starting from 1977. But then I also went further in the second block there to show what I read in terms of what other authors had to say about Bordeaux's theory of practice, in my field, which is information systems. And then finally, towards the end of my theory chapter, I had a dedicated section where I looked at how Bordeaux's theory of practice was applied to my phenomena of interest. So, good luck with your theorizing. getting to know the theory and reading the theory. I'm Dr. Kirstin Krauss. For more of these workshops with much more detail and many good examples, go to the Wiz Academy at wizacademy.com or academy.wiz.co.za.